Hi, and welcome to session 8. Obviously, we had our intense session 7, didn't we? And now we're going to be resuming normal practice. So we've got a nice warm up and then we've got a little bit of new content coming. I'm hoping that you are actually starting to reach a stage now where that kind of anxious feel that we sometimes get with maths is calming down and our confidence in our ability is starting to grow. I'm hoping that this recap is helping you to draw on the knowledge that you are building, and you are starting to remember these angle facts in the different methods and skills that we've been seeing during this course. So pause, have a go at these questions, press play when you're ready. All right, so let's have a look at the answers. What I suggest, let me not go too high. There we go. What I suggest you do is just mark. So pause, take the time to mark, look at some of the workings out, check your answers thoroughly. If you feel that you've done pretty well and you don't need the talk through, then obviously forward on to the new learning. If you want to hear how some of this is gone, then please listen. I'm obviously going to talk about the marks that you get in your exams. You can see I've done lots of tickings and bits and pieces. If you want that explained, then please just let it run through. Okay, so here we go. Really important. I hope we remember to actually write this. All right, this is a mark. We don't want to lose that mark. So get into the habit of writing that down. It told me to do 15 times 38, which I have done. I've done it down here. Actually, let's have a quick look at that. Because you've only got to just do one multiplication wrong, it throws everything out. You won't lose all your marks because you make a mathematical error at this stage. However, we want to try and avoid that. So that it was the workings out for the long multiplication bit. Okay. And then I just obviously had my 2 zeros, so went in 2 places. If you put the 0 in, that's fine. It really is fine. To be honest with you, looking at my question, I haven't quite answered it perfectly anyway. The 0 would need to be there because it's money. Yeah, £49.20. That's important. Okay, for this one, I needed to remember my vertically opposite rule, because without that, I don't have enough information in the triangle to work out x. But when I can see that I've got a vertically opposite that could be written here, then that gives me the 2 angles I need to find the third. So then I add those together and take it away from my 180. Okay. So I thought we'd do a decimal question just because we've started now moving into decimals more. So it makes sense to practice that. Obviously, I want, by timesing by 10, I want an answer that's bigger. So I'm going to move in that direction one place. For my division, 2 zeros. This time I'm going back, not forwards. So back 2 places to get this. Remember, the method is divide by the bottom times by the top for question 3. So divide by 5 and then times by 4. Just try to demonstrate, you know, again, remembering to put ourselves into groups. So I circled the B's, I stuck an underline under my C and watched what I was doing here as my last step. And the ticks here are just telling you that you are getting 1 mark for each correct bit, okay? So the only reason I've highlighted that one is, you know, that's the one that we needed to be really careful of. 7x minus 4x, 3x. That was straightforward. But here I had to notice I was starting at -3 on the number line. And then I added 5, which is why I ended up at +2. So that was just something to be very careful of. This question, I just had to remember that angles around a point add up to 360. So that's why 360 has appeared in my working out. And then obviously I've thrown in the sneaky little isosceles. We haven't seen it that many times yet, so it might still be causing you problems. If you got this right, really, really well done. I was given the 72 in the X, which meant this was missing originally, highlighted the lines that were dashed so that I knew if I went up them, I went to the angle that was different. That told me it couldn't be 72 here. And then you went down to the 2 that are the same. That told me that was 72. Marked it in. Now I've got all the information I need. Add the 2 that I've been given, that I know the value of, and then take it away from the 180. Okay. Coordinates. I've chosen to include coordinates in the course because it's very commonly written the wrong way round. So I'm seeing pupils lose marks this way all the time. So it isn't necessarily hard, but it is a problem if we don't get the numbers the right way around. So I just wanted to include this so that we had an opportunity to practice it, but also we had an opportunity to just come up with an idea that might work for stopping that problem if it's something that you do. So let's just look at a question and make the links as we go along. So if I had the question 3, 2, so that's the coordinate and I'm being asked to plot it. I've got to get it in the exact correct position to get the mark. And it's a 1-mark question, so I'm either right or wrong. So when we learn this, we often learn along the corridor and up the stairs. But what we don't do is link the actual X and the Y. Along the corridor, okay, which is a flat kind of platform that you walk across. So along the corridor, that is my X. And then up and down the stairs is my Y. The X and the Y are always labeled, so they are always in the diagram that you're given. But I think the best link, I love the along the corridor and up the stairs, and I don't lose that, but I like X, Y, Z. Okay, if I write X, Y, Z, it's really easy for me to remember that. It's the alphabet. It's the very last 3 letters. It's in alphabetical order, X, Y, Z. And then I make my link. The first number belongs to the X. The second number belongs to the Y. Okay, and if we were to ever extend into 3D coordinates, which is a thing, then the Z actually comes into its own, but we won't. So the Z just gets ignored for our normal XY coordinates. All right. So I now know that on my X along the corridor is 3. So actually, I might just highlight that. There's my 3. And up and down the stairs on my Y is 2. Yeah, so all I've got to do is just go to where the Y is in the diagram and find the 2. Go to where the X is in the diagram and travel along and find the 3. Everything's there, so use it, all right? And then it's just like a times table grid. Where do these 2 meet? They meet here. I'll mark it on, and I've got my 3, 2. So labeling X, Y, I write X, Y, Z as habit, and then I line up the X and the Ys and plot them from there. I'll show it to you one more time so that you have that really clearly. So let's say I've given you this time -2, -4. I'm going to write X, Y, Z. And then I know the first one's going to go with the X. The second one's going to go with the Y. I find the X. I travel along until I find the -2, which is here. I could highlight it, or I could just hold my finger there. Yeah, I'm highlighting because you can't really see me working on the page, but I would probably just put my finger there, put my finger on the other one, and then go along until I find where they meet. So I probably would just use my fingers. The Y has -4 on it. So I go along the Y axis until I find -4. It's down here. Okay. And then where they meet is where I cross. And that is how we do it. So what I want you to do is I want you to just pause to draw out a coordinate grid. And then we'll just have a go at a couple of questions, and then we'll look at doing it the other way around. So press play when you're ready with a grid. Okay, plot the coordinate 2 minus 3. Okay, press play when you're ready. Okay, so X, Y, Z is my habit. So on the X is a 2. So travel along the X, there's the 2. Like I said, probably if I was just doing this on paper, I'd use my finger. I'd just hold my finger there. And then my Y has -3 on it. So travel along the, let's do it with the highlighter. Travel along until you find -3, which is down here. And mark it on. And then you are literally where they meet is where I cross. Done. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right, fingers crossed you got that right after me saying easy peasy. Okay, so let's do one more and then we will look at writing them. So draw for me the coordinate -3, 4. Press play when you're ready. Okay, so X, Y, Z. On the X, I've got -3. On the X, -3 is here. So I will just make a note of that. And then on my Y, I've got 4. So Y, I've got 4, which is here. Hardly have to travel anywhere to get to that one. So I'll highlight that. And then where they meet, which is here, is where I'm going to put my cross. So if you put your cross there, fabulous, well done. Okay, hold on to your grid because we may very well come back to it. You may very well want to use it again in a moment. The other type of question is when you're given the cross and you're told to write the coordinate. Now you can just do this literally backwards. So using that same principle, but just doing everything backwards. So this time I'm going to go up to the 4 and highlight it. And I'm going to go across until I meet the y-axis and highlight whatever number that is. I'm then going to write my x, y, z. And that reminds me I've got to put the x number first. So I go along and find the x number, it's 4. So I'm going to put my 4. And then obviously the second number, just, I don't even need to think about it, do I? The number that's left goes on the end. Really, really important we remember the brackets. We actually won't get the mark if the brackets are missing. So that I can't, well, clearly it's incredibly important. If you haven't got the brackets, it's not a coordinate, it's just a list of numbers. It could have been the temperature on December the 10th that you recorded and the temperature on December the 11th. You know, it's just a list of numbers. It could mean anything. Put the coordinates around it, the brackets around it, and you've made a coordinate. All right, let's do another one. So I want you to have a go at this one. We're going to do 2, 0. Okay, I'm going to do 2, 0. So I want you to draw 2, 0 on your grid. Sorry, I've gone back to the previous question, haven't I? We'll do another one the other way in a sec. Okay, so 2 on the X. Let's get my highlighter. There we go. 2 on the X. Now 0 on the Y is here, isn't it? It means I'm not going up or down. I'm actually staying on the same line as the X is. So I'm going to plot here, and I'm not going to go up, and I'm not going to go down, because my Y-axis, yeah, X, Y, Z, my Y is telling me to go nowhere. Do not go up, do not go down. Okay, sun's just come out. How lovely. Okay, let's go back to me putting one on the actual grid for you to tell me. All right, let's do that one there. Okay, you tell me that one. All right, so I'll drop down and highlight the -2. I'll come across and highlight that it's going to 2. So I know those are my numbers. I've just got to get them in the right order. So X, Y, Z, travel along that X line first. I've got -2. So it's -2 and then the 2. Put it in the brackets. Job done. All right. I hope you are finding that very straightforward. It's just quite a nice way of using the alphabet to help us here. Okay, I think it's a very nice way. Okay, I'm going to change the question slightly because more often than not, you get asked to plot, you get asked to name, which we've just practiced. And then you get asked sometimes to finish off a shape. So it's like you've got the corners of some shapes, which are given to you already plotted. And then you're asked to write down the coordinate that would complete it and make it look like a parallelogram, or make it look like a kite, or make it look like a square, or whatever it might be. So we're going to do a couple like that and just see how we get on. So I'm going to give you, those, okay. And I want you to write down the coordinate that would create a square. So what point would I need to put down that would make a square? Press play when you're ready. Okay, one of the things that I would recommend doing here is just drawing up what you've got, because it just helps you start to see the shape. Okay, and when you can start to see the shape, it guides you naturally to the right kind of position. Once you've decided where it is, draw it up to make sure it is a square. So for example, if I thought, oh, it's here, once I've drawn that in, I can see that actually it's not quite right. The square's gone wrong. And what I needed to do was be here to bring myself straight down. Okay, so do continue to follow that shape through. So it's here. I'm going to test that straight down, straight across. It's not the perfect straight line. It's gone off at a slight angle, but that is the square. So this is the point that I've got to write about. Okay, so I'm going to go X, Y, Z. So on my X, I've got a 3. On my Y, on my Y, I'm here. I'm at 0. So 0. And it's job done. If you got that right, really, really well done. We're going to do one now that's slightly different. See how you get on. I think these are quite hard if you don't know your shapes very well. So if I gave you this one, this one, and this one, and I told you that you had to find me the point that was going to make a kite, what would that point be? So what I need you to do for this is either use the grid that you've already got. If it's got a bit busy with the work that you've done already, then you probably won't want to use that, because that's just going to get confusing. So draw yourself out a new grid, copy the plots that I've given you down really carefully, okay, and then just have a go. It doesn't matter whether it goes right or wrong. We're looking at something new. We're taking it up a level. This is, you know, combining topics, because we're supposed to know our shapes to be able to do this as well. So it is a hard question, but just out your comfort zone, got nothing to lose. Just go for it and press play when you're ready. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to think about my kite shape. Okay, I know that my kite shape would look something like that. Then I'm going to draw on the lines that I can. So I know that I can go from here to here, and I can go all the way down there. So what I'm sensing is that I've kind of got that part of my kite. So the point I need is this one here. Okay, now there has to be symmetry. There has to be, these are in line with each other. So I kind of know I'm going to be on this line here somewhere. And I want the symmetry. So one of the ways that you could do this, the way we visualize and the way that we see things can be very, very different. So you may not take this approach as a natural approach to you. So if you've got this answer right and you think, yeah, but I didn't do it that way, it doesn't matter. I'm just kind of modeling and demonstrating a way to think about it. So I'm thinking, okay, a kite has symmetry through its middle here. So through this middle here, I want to have some symmetry. So if this is 1 away from my line of symmetry, then I need to be 1 away from my line of symmetry, which would put me here. Now I need to test that. So I draw through, let's put my straight edge tool on, there we go, draw through and see if that looks like a kite, and it does. So that is my point. Always draw that shape and make sure you can see what it's supposed to be. So now I've just got to obviously write that coordinate down. So it's that one there. So I've got X, Y, Z. Okay. On the X axis, okay, I'm going up from 0 to get to that point. So it's 0 and then 2 on the Y. If you did 0, 2, then really, really well done. I think these can be quite tricky. It's not so much that I think we have to be brilliant at this. It's more that I want you to see it. I want you to be aware of it. And I want you to have an idea of how you would approach it. Okay. I think that's bigger than anything else. We'll do one more. And then we will just practice our coordinates. So if I gave you, this one here, and told you I wanted you to draw an isosceles triangle. Isosceles triangle. Where would you put the 3rd point to make the triangle? So again, pause, just have a go at this question, redo the grid if you need to. And then press play when you're ready. Okay, so I need to think about what an isosceles triangle is. So I'll just give myself a little sketch. I know it's a triangle where 2 edges are the same. So I draw in what I've got, which to be fair isn't a great deal, is it? Because I've only got 2 points. So when I draw that in, okay, then that gives me 1 edge of my triangle. And I'll match it to my sketch, which is that bit there. So I know that this is going to be its base. I just don't know how long it's going to be. And I'm going to use this idea of symmetry again to help me. Yeah, if I cut down through the middle, then this distance either side here is equal. So I know I need to cut down through the middle here. And then the distance will be the same either side. So that is 1, 2 squares from my line of symmetry. So 1, 2 squares would put me here. So test it now. Make sure I put it in the right place. So I'm going to go down, draw it through, and that's definitely looking isosceles to me. So the point, I'm on the axes again. These axes are sometimes harder to draw, aren't they? So I've got my X, Y, Z. So on the X is the number 1, and I haven't gone up or down on the Y, so it's 1, 0. If you got that right, really, really well done, because I don't think these are easy. So they take a bit of practice. So what I want you to do is, I've done it on the other page, haven't I? There we go. So what I want you to do, I've combined 2 questions onto this one grid. What I'd like you to do is obviously have a go at this question. You'll pause. You're probably going to need to draw the grid out. I don't see how you're going to be able to answer it without. So draw your coordinate grid, and then you're going to plot these 3 coordinates. All right. And then I'm asking you to write the point that would join all the points together to make a parallelogram. So it's not one we've done. So think about the shape a parallelogram is when you get to this stage. And then the second part is to literally just write down the coordinates for those. When you're ready, hit play and I will show you the answers. Okay, here are our answers. Okay, so let's take it up so we can see. So you should have something that looks a little bit like that. So this is the coordinate of 2, 2. We've got 0, -1. We've got -2, 2. And then this is our fourth point to make the parallelogram. So I would have joined. So really what I would have done is I would have sketched what a parallelogram looks like to me and taken it from there, okay? You may, however, have seen a completely different point, and that wouldn't be wrong because there are 2 other possible places that you could have had a parallelogram. And there they are. So just thought I'd cut that in and let you see that because it's important to know that you're not incorrect if you have a slightly different answer. As long as you are making that parallelogram, everything is going perfectly well for you. And then you've got your answers here. Remember that you should have your brackets and everything should be the right way round, hopefully. All right, so that's our coordinates. Obviously, we will start seeing those coming up for a bit of repetition in the future. Okay, last thing I'm going to do, and we're going to do this one fairly quickly, hopefully. Now, remember, if you feel a bit full up, all right, you've taken on a lot of information, you've done a reasonable time already on this session, you don't have to do this all back to back in one go. You could take a break now. This is the perfect time to take a break, and then you can come back and do your mean in a shorter, quicker session. Up to you, all right? So the mean is the last of our averages. So we've done mode, median, and range. And now we're adding mean. The only reason that I kept mean out for a little while was because I really wanted you to just be thinking about the language of the first 3. So rather than having 4 to remember all at the same time, I gave you 3. Hopefully, they are now coming a bit more naturally. You're not thinking about them as much. So we can bring the mean in, which is our final piece of kind of average work that goes into this topic, okay? So the mean is exactly how it sounds. It's the mean. It's the one that requires the most work. It's the hardest out of all of them. It's the one where you're most likely going to have it on a calculator paper because you're going to do a lot of maths to get to the answer, okay? So the method is add together. So add them all up, add together, and then divide by how many are there. And if you've learnt the hey diddle diddle rhyme, then you've got that mean already as part of your knowledge base because you've got it within that rhyme, haven't you? So to get the marks, we must show the steps of these methods. We can't just know it, do it, and write an answer. We've got to show every single step. And when you've got quite a long list of numbers, it can be tempting not to show it because it's just a load of work that you don't want to do, but you must, okay? So the first step is 5 plus 10 plus 3 plus 8 plus 12 plus 4 plus 7 plus 15, okay? You're going to stick that in your calculator and it's going to give you 64. So I've added them all together. I've done the first step. I've then got to divide by how many are there. That's just a case of counting the numbers. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm going to divide by 8, and I will continue to use my calculator if I've got it available to me. And the answer is 8. And that's the mean. and that really is the mean. There is nothing more. We can make more complicated questions as we go up through the grades, but at grade 2, in our grade 2 course, which are our averages from lists, this is it. Nothing more to learn. So it's just a case of remembering. Okay. So let's do another one. So we're going to do 42, 58, 36, 44, and 60. Pause and press play with your answer when you're ready. Okay. I want to make sure I am not risking any marks being lost. So I'm showing exactly what I'm doing in my calculator. I am adding all of those together and I'm getting 240. I divide by how many are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So take my answer, divide it by 5, and I get 48. Okay. Now the answer, this is a really interesting thing and quite a useful thing to know. The answer should fit in the data. So if it's bigger than the biggest number, you've gone wrong. And if it's smaller than the smallest number, you've gone wrong. Okay, so our smallest number is 36 and our biggest number is 60. So this lies beautifully between them. Okay, look at that 60. That's really badly drawn, which actually gives me a good opportunity to say, if that happens in your exam, you mustn't allow it to stay like that. Your examiner needs to read your answers clearly, okay, really clearly. All right, if you got 48, fabulous, well done. Let's do another one. Let's do 138, 116, 95, 127, and 102. Pause and press play when you're ready. Okay, going to show what I'm doing in my calculator. And I've got 578. Going to divide by how many are there, which is 5. And that's going to give me 115.6. Write down exactly what the calculator says. Only ever round if the question tells you to round. So only ever round if the question tells you to round. Okay. So let's do one more. Actually, this one will be a rounding question. Okay, I'm going to ask you to round it to 1 decimal place so that we have a chance to look at that skill. There we go. Remember 1 decimal place for your answer and press play when you're ready. Okay. Showing my working out. And that adds up to 379. 379 divided by 7. Now, always write down sum of your number, okay? And then you do your rounding. So rounding to 1 decimal place means I go to the decimal point, I go 1 place further down, and then boom, I cut, okay? So let's cut that. Just gonna bring my red back so it stands out. So I'm going to cut it here. Now, this side of the line tells me if I add 1 to this side of the line. Okay, so this tells me if I add 1 to this. If it's 5 or more, I add 1. And if it's not, I do nothing. Literally, I do nothing. So I've got a 4. Is that 5 or more? Nope. So I do nothing. And I literally write down what I can see. Okay. So we are going to do a couple of rounding questions now, just to make sure that we are okay. And then we've brought in another skill to our course, which is always good. So if I gave you 14.673 and I said round that to 1 decimal place, I'm going to show you this so that you've seen it one more time, and then you're going to have a go. So 1 decimal place means there's my point, go 1 down and cut. So I'm going to cut here, box the number and ask the question, is it 5 or more? If I get a yes, which I do with this because it's the number 7, it means I'm going to add 1. So I'm going to have 14.7. Okay, right, have a go at your own question. Let's do 7.1364. Okay, press play when you're ready. Okay, 1 decimal place means I cut here, cut and box. That's what I do, cut and box when it comes to rounding. Okay, ask the question, is it 5 or more? Nope, it's not. So I do nothing. 7.1, done. Okay, let's do another one. This actually, let's do this. We're going to do 3.67521 to 2 decimal places. I want you to have a go. So don't wait to watch. I know it's different, but just use what you've just learnt and then apply it to how you think it needs to be applied, and then test to see whether it's worked or not. So hit play when you're ready. Okay, so this one, 2 decimal places means I go to the point and I go 2 down and I put my cut here. That's the only difference. I always box, ask the question, is it 5 or more? Yes. If I get yes is my answer, I add 1. And I always adding to the number that's right next to the line. The line is where I'm focused, okay? So that's going to be, as an answer, 3.6, and then I'm adding 1 to the 7, 8. So I'm going to include some of our rounding now in the future sort of recaps, so that we've got that opportunity to just practice that a couple more times, because I think that's really useful. All right, so here are your questions. If there's rounding, round to 1 decimal place. And then that's it for this session, okay? So I'm going to scroll up those answers in a moment, and then you can just go backwards and forwards. Don't do all 6 in one go. Please mark as you go. You know how I feel about that. Really, really important that you are aware of how you're getting on as early as possible, okay? All right, I'm pushing the answers up now. There we go. So backwards and forwards, guys, and I will see you in the next session. Well done today.